Let the amen sound from his people again. Gladly for aye we adore him.
Hi everyone, we're going to talk about the 5 encounters with Christ in the Mass, and we're going to try to do it in 5 minutes, only one though. So today, the first one is when we gather in his name. And actually, I'm just going to take a minute and read the upcoming Sunday's Gospel because it is so beautiful and it kind of deals with what we're talking about. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does, he prunes so that it bears more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word that I spoke to you. Remain in me as I remain in you, just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine. So neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. And what I forgot to remind you is that we are the branches, and I'm sure you caught that anyway. So we can't survive being on our own. We can't survive being separated.
We will never survive, really, to be everything we're supposed to be, being separate from Jesus. So these 5 encounters are these 5 ways in the liturgy that we stay connected to Jesus. Is that what that's what we're going to be talking about, right?
Yeah, and
Okay.
Particularly because as we gather together, we're literally branches connected to the vine, especially when we're at Mass.
Right. As a matter of fact, there are theologians who believe that text of Scripture, so we're talking about the first presence. The first presence is us gathering together.
Right.
So us gathering together, that reality of us doing that is critical to the spiritual life, because there's no such thing as ever being a Christian on your own.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as I'm a solitary believer, I don't need other people. That would be in complete contradiction to Christianity. Plus, many scripture scholars believe that text, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them, is about the liturgy. Because the liturgy goes back to the very, very beginning of the church. I want to share something with you from the Catechism, which was written by St. Justin around the year 155. So about 100 years after Jesus. And it said, on the day of the sun, which would be Sunday, of course. Now, I think it's important for us to note that the rest of the ancient world, this was not a day off. This was not a particularly important day. So this was like Wednesday. Okay, for like everybody else is going to work. But on the day of the sun, all who dwell in the city and the country gather in the same place. They come together in the same place. Now it goes on to talk about the liturgy, and maybe we'll talk about this whenever we talk about different aspects of these presences. But the gathering is important. So the church made an obligation and said, you got to come. What we've done, we reduced it to the obligation. I got to go, as opposed to understanding why. Why do we have to go? We need to be there to be together to support each other in this life of faith. And that's why our hospitality ministry is so important too, because we're supposed to be one body. We're not just a bunch of individuals that happen to go to church at Our Mother of Sorrows or St. Michael's. We're supposed to be becoming more and more one. And I don't think we've arrived at it yet, but we're trying. But anyway, so by being that, Jesus says he'll be there.
Right. And so when we're at the Mass, we're in union with God, everyone in the church, like you said, and with the saints and the angels.
We'll get to that. Yeah, that's right.
The Mass is a transcendent experience. It's kind of a mesh between different, what's the word I want to think of? The different dimensions of time and space. I mean, can you?
Well, I think the word that many people use, they call it, it's trans-historical. If you and I are living in history, time and space right now, and our lives are going on, like after I'm done doing this, I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
Now I'm in time and space. But the liturgy is trans-historical. It's like the resurrection. It's beyond time and space. It's in the holy now. It's in the present now. So it's beyond history, and so it's always present.
it's always present and it's multidimensional. It's not the dimension that we see.
Right, correct.
There's-
Yeah, there is. I think if you and I were to see what's going on around us in the world invisibly, we would be shocked.
Exactly. So
Sure.
that's the most fascinating thing to me. When I die and we go to heaven, I will be able to see that
We'll go to heaven.
dimension.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, that
yes.
other dimension.
Yes, we'll see.
Okay. The other point I was thinking of very quickly, our last point, after Jesus died post resurrection and he appeared to the disciples and they didn't recognize him. We live in the post resurrection world now. Is it true that Jesus is present at the Mass? Maybe we just don't recognize him.
I think that's very true. And I think two reasons. I think number one, we reduced things to their lowest common denominator. We made it into an obligation, and we did not evangelize people or catechize them to what's really going on. Us doing this today is awesome, because now we're trying to say, look, why do I come to Mass Sunday after Sunday? Because when I was a kid, you know, because we're supposed to,
Right.
you know, and nobody could tell why. First of all, whenever I was a kid, and maybe I'll talk about this some other time, it was all in Latin. Nobody knew what's going on. You know, nobody was paying even any attention to what was going on. They're all doing the little prayers in their pews or praying rosaries and
Separately
devotionals.
from what was going on.
Yes, and there was no connection. The only time you paid attention was when they rang the little bell and they
And
raised the host.
That was your
You woke up
clue
for a minute, you know,
or cue
something
to
was
pay
happening
attention.
up there. Plus, when you heard the homily, you know, then you paid attention a little bit. But we never knew why. And I think now we're trying to talk about why.
Yeah, and so we're just going to conclude our 5 ways that we see Jesus in the Mass. First is when we gather, he's with us.
When 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them.
Yes.
That's the first presence. Awesome.